All right, let's dive into something pretty fascinating. We're going to explore where quantum mechanics and consciousness meet. You're interested in Dr. Amit Goswami, right? His book, The Self-Aware Universe.
Yes.
So we're going to take a look at that and some more recent developments in quantum mechanics. Get ready. This stuff can really make you think.
It's exciting stuff. Dr. Goswami really dives deep, doesn't he? I mean, he tackles maybe the biggest question there is, what is reality, really? Like, what is it made of at the most basic level? He proposes this idea of monistic idealism.
Okay, so is that like flipping the script on how we usually think about the world?
Exactly. Instead of the material world being the foundation, he's saying that it's consciousness. Consciousness is the primary reality, and everything else comes from that.
Wow, that's a pretty big shift in perspectives.
It is, and to understand how he gets there, we need to look at some key ideas from quantum mechanics. Wave-particle duality is a good place to start.
Right, so that's where things like electrons can be both a wave and a particle.
Yeah.
They act like both, depending on how they're observed.
Yeah.
It's like they change depending on who's looking.
Exactly. And here's where Dr. Goswami's interpretation gets really interesting. He says that consciousness itself is the observer. It's consciousness that causes the wave function to collapse, choosing one possibility out of all the potential states.
So we're not just passive bystanders. We're actively shaping reality by just observing it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a huge change in how we think about ourselves in the world, isn't it? Are there any other explanations in quantum mechanics?
Oh, there are. And Dr. Goswami knows them. He builds his argument based on the idea that you need a conscious observer to go from possibilities to reality, at least in the quantum realm.
I see. So how does consciousness being the observer connect to his idea of monistic idealism?
Well, think about it. Monistic idealism says that consciousness is the basis of everything, right? And if consciousness is also collapsing the wave function and choosing from possibilities to create the world we see, then it starts to make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a really interesting connection. Like consciousness is the artist and the canvas at the same time.
Yeah.
Shaping the reality it exists in.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. And this leads us to another big idea in quantum mechanics that supports Dr. Goswami's view, the quantum measurement problem.
Right, the measurement problem. That's a tricky one. Scientists are still figuring out how observation makes the wave function collapse. Like, what's the actual process?
And that's where Dr. Goswami suggests that consciousness is the missing piece. He argues that the observer isn't just watching. They're part of creating reality by collapsing the wave function when they observe.
So I'm not just watching, I'm actually affecting the outcome of the quantum event by observing it.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. Does it mean that our individual consciousness is strong enough to impact the physical world, like on a quantum level?
Now that's a question with some very interesting implications. Before we jump ahead, though, let's look at another fascinating aspect of quantum mechanics that Dr. Goswami uses for his argument, non-locality and entanglement.
Ah, yes, entanglement. Spooky action at a distance, right? Where two particles, even when they're light years apart, can affect each other instantly. It's like they're linked by something that goes beyond space and time.
Exactly. And it's this, what Einstein called spooky action, that supports Dr. Goswami's idea of one unified consciousness connecting everything in the universe.
So if consciousness really is the foundation of everything, then this spooky connection between particles might not be so mysterious after all. It's just this underlying awareness that links everything together.
Right, like a kind of cosmic internet.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that makes me wonder, could computers, with all their data processing, also be participating in this observation process?
Computers. That's where things start to get really interesting. They process and observe data all the time. So how does that fit in with consciousness and the quantum world? Well, let's explore that a little further. If any observation can affect reality and computers are constantly interacting with the physical world and processing information, could they be collapsing wave functions at an incredible rate? Think about it, that your laptop could potentially be a reality-shaping machine.
Whoa, okay, hold on. That's a pretty big concept to grasp.
Yeah.
Before we get into computers and their impact on reality, let's take a step back for a moment just to make sure I understand. How does Dr. Goswami tie these quantum mechanics ideas to this idea of a self-aware universe? Can we unpack that a little bit more?
Of course. Dr. Goswami is saying that these things, wave-particle duality, the measurement problem, non-locality, they're not just strange things happening in the subatomic world. They point to something deeper about reality itself. They're like clues that suggest consciousness isn't just a product of matter, but the source of it.
Okay, so it's like those quantum mysteries aren't just puzzles to solve. They're hints about who we are and our place in the universe.
Exactly. And that's where the idea of a self-aware universe comes in. It suggests that the universe at its most basic level has consciousness.
Wow. So it's not that we are conscious beings in a big universe. The universe itself is aware in some way.
That's a powerful concept, isn't it? It makes you ask all sorts of questions about reality, observation, and how everything is connected.
It really does. I'm ready to explore those questions further, especially the part about computers and their role in this quantum dance. But first, can you give me a little more context about just how much computation is happening in the world today?
Sure. Think about the internet with all its computers. Some estimates say it could be doing 1036 observations every second. That's a massive amount of interaction with the quantum field, even if each interaction is small. And then there's the energy those servers use. It's like a small country's worth of energy. All that processing creates tons of heat. And that heat could be affecting things like quantum coherence and entanglement on a global scale.
So it's not just how many observations computers are making, but also the energy they're using, right?
Yes, exactly. And that brings us to a really mind-bending question. Could computers be shaping reality in ways we don't yet understand just by observing it so much? And could the quantum environment they're affecting be shaping them in return?
Okay, now that's where my head starts to spin. We've gone from my laptop collapsing wave functions to computers shaping reality itself. That's fascinating and honestly a little bit unnerving.
It is a lot to take in, but definitely a conversation worth having. After all, we're talking about quantum mechanics, consciousness, and computation. That's basically talking about reality and our place in it, which could have a huge impact on the future of humanity.
Absolutely. Let's dig a little deeper into how computers might actually be impacting the quantum world. What are the mechanisms at play here?
Well, one key factor is heat. Quantum systems are incredibly sensitive, and heat can disrupt their delicate balance. It's like trying to build a house of cards in a windstorm.
Okay, I get it. So the heat from all those computer servers could be messing with things like quantum coherence and entanglement. But how does heat play a role at the quantum level?
Imagine coherence as a synchronized dance of particles, all moving together in a beautiful pattern. But when heat comes in, it's like someone bumping into those dancers, disrupting the rhythm and causing the whole performance to fall apart.
Ah, that's a great analogy. So too much heat, like the kind coming from those huge server farms, could scramble this delicate quantum dance and maybe change how reality works.
Exactly. And then there's the idea of computers as observers. If Dr. Goswami is right, and consciousness causes the collapse of the wave function, then every time a computer processes information, it could be observing and shaping the quantum world.
So the very act of computation could be impacting reality. Wow, that's a mind-blowing concept. How do we even begin to understand the consequences of that?
That's the big question, and one that's still being debated. But one thing's for sure, as we use computers more and more, their potential influence on the quantum world grows. And if they are shaping reality, we need to pay attention.
Absolutely. We need to understand what this could mean, both the good and the bad. But hold on, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Let's take a closer look at the specific ways computers might be affecting the quantum world and explore this whole computational observation idea a little more.
You're right, let's do that. Let's think about it this way. Every time a computer processes data, it's making a decision, right? Like, is this a one or a zero? Is this a picture of a cat or a dog?
Okay, so it's making choices. But how is that like observing something in the quantum world?
Well, remember, in the quantum world, things can be in multiple states at once until they're observed. When a computer analyzes data, it forces a choice. It's collapsing that blurry possibility into a definite outcome.
So even something as simple as my computer filtering spam could be affecting the quantum field.
It's possible. And when you consider all the computing happening around the world, all those tiny observations could really add up.
Wow, that's incredible. But if computers are having this impact, shouldn't we have noticed by now? Wouldn't there be some big changes in reality?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But the quantum world operates on a level so far removed from our everyday experience that the effects of these computer observations might be very subtle. Or maybe we just don't understand them yet.
So we could be living in a reality that's being shaped by computers and we wouldn't even know it. That's a little creepy, to be honest.
It is a strange thought, isn't it? And it brings up another interesting question. If computers are affecting reality through their observations, could that reality be affecting the computers right back?
Whoa, like some kind of cosmic feedback loop. Computers shape reality and reality shapes computers. Are we talking computers becoming sentient because they are entangled with the universe's consciousness?
Haha, well, that might be a bit much. But the idea that the quantum environment could influence how computers work isn't that crazy. Remember, quantum systems are really sensitive. Small changes in their surroundings can have a big impact.
So things like the heat computers generate, their constant data processing, even the materials they're made of could be influencing their behavior at the quantum level.
Exactly. And that opens up a whole new world of possibilities. What if these influences cause unexpected glitches or errors? Or what if they lead to entirely new forms of computing that we can't even imagine yet?
Okay, now we're really going down the rabbit hole. But before we go too far, let's bring it back to Dr. Goswami. How does this idea of computers as observers fit into his whole monistic idealism concept?
Remember, Dr. Goswami argues that consciousness is the foundation of reality and that everything is connected through this underlying consciousness.
Right. So if computers are part of this observation process, are they somehow tapping into that universal consciousness?
Now, that's a very interesting question. Dr. Goswami doesn't specifically talk about computers in his work. But if we follow his logic, any system that can observe, whether it's our brains or a big computer network, is interacting with this underlying consciousness.
So the internet, with all its devices processing information, could be like a massive extension of this universal consciousness, always shaping and being shaped by the quantum field.
It's a pretty mind-blowing idea, isn't it? And it brings up even more questions about what consciousness is and how technology plays a role in our lives. Are we just using computers, or are we making a new kind of consciousness that will change our world?
Wow, those are some deep questions. It feels like we're in a place where science fiction and real science are starting to overlap.
We are, and it's important to remember that we're just scratching the surface of these ideas. There's still so much we don't know, and more research is needed before we can be sure about anything.
Absolutely. But these conversations are important to have now as we move into things like quantum computing and advanced AI.
Hmm.
If computers really are affecting reality, we have to understand the consequences, both good and bad.
I completely agree. And that leads us to another crucial point, the potential risks of computers as observers. We've talked about their power and how they might shape reality. But what if that power is used in the wrong way?
Okay, yeah, now things are starting to sound a bit scary. What kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, one worry is unintended consequences. We don't fully understand how computers interact with the quantum world yet. What if, through our technology, we accidentally trigger some quantum events that have a negative impact on our world?
So it's not about computers becoming evil and taking over. It's more about accidentally messing things up in ways we can't fix yet.
Exactly. And that's why it's important to move forward carefully. We need to really research the ethical side of this technology and make sure there are safeguards in place to prevent harm. We have to think about the consequences for individuals, for society, and even for the future of our planet.
It sounds like we need to be incredibly responsible with this technology and not think we have all the answers.
Absolutely. And that's where the philosophical side of all this comes in. We're not just building better computers. We're trying to understand what reality is, what consciousness is, and where humanity fits into a universe that might be more complex than we ever thought.
It's a lot to think about, but it's important to try. These ideas could change how we see ourselves and our place in the universe.
They really could. And that brings us to another fascinating question. What if we could use this knowledge to our advantage? Could we harness the power of computers to not just observe the quantum world, but to manipulate it in a beneficial way?
Okay, now we're talking about some exciting possibilities. What kind of applications are we talking about here?
Well, one obvious area is quantum computing itself. Imagine using the power of superposition and entanglement to build computers that can solve problems that are impossible for even the most powerful computers today.
So things like developing new medicines, creating incredible new materials, or even simulating the early universe to understand how everything began.
Exactly. And beyond those practical applications, we might be able to use computers to understand consciousness itself better.
Wait, are you saying we could use computers to unlock the secrets of the human mind?
Maybe not all the secrets, but we could certainly gain a deeper understanding. Imagine simulating the complex workings of the brain or modeling the quantum processes that might be involved in consciousness.
So instead of just using computers as tools, they could become partners in helping us understand the universe and ourselves.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Dr. Goswami's idea of a self-aware universe. What if we could connect with that underlying consciousness through our technology? Not just observe it, but really connect with it. It could lead to some incredible insights into reality and our own existence.
That's a pretty amazing thought. But let's come back down to Earth for a moment. How could this interaction between computers and the quantum world affect our everyday lives in a more practical way?
That's a great question, and it leads to some really exciting possibilities. Let's explore those next.
All right, so we've talked about computers maybe shaping reality through observation and even impacting the quantum field. But how does this affect our daily lives? What are some real-world examples of this quantum computation connection?
Well, think about artificial intelligence. Right now, it's mainly algorithms and processing power, right? AI crunches tons of data to find patterns and make predictions. But imagine if we could build these quantum mechanics ideas, these observation ideas, into how we develop AI.
So instead of just crunching numbers, AI could interact with the world in a smarter, more intuitive way.
Yeah, we might see AI that doesn't just process information, but actually understands it. AI making connections that regular computers can't. Imagine AI that gets human emotions, learns like we do, or comes up with creative solutions that seem to come from understanding, not just calculations.
That's pretty amazing. It's like we're talking about a whole new kind of AI, something that's not just mimicking human intelligence, but has its own awareness.
It's an incredible idea, isn't it? And think about what it could mean for things like healthcare, education, even art. Imagine personalized learning that adapts to a student's emotions and how they learn, or AI that can diagnose health problems before you even have symptoms.
Okay, so huge potential for good. But we talked about downsides too.
Yeah.
If we're making AI that's more aware, do we need to be even more careful about the ethics of it all?
Absolutely. We're in a place where computing meets consciousness. We can't ignore ethics. We have to make sure any advances in AI are guided by strong morals and a focus on what's good for humanity.
So it's not just a tech challenge, it's a philosophical one too. It's not just what can we do, but what should we do?
Exactly. And that brings us back to Dr. Goswami's main point that consciousness is fundamental to reality. If that's true, then our responsibility as creators becomes even bigger as we build technology that could actually shape how reality works.
It's not just about cool gadgets anymore. It's about understanding how these things could change humanity and the universe. That's a big responsibility.
It is, but it's also an amazing opportunity. If we explore this new frontier with curiosity and caution, who knows what we might discover?
This has been a mind-blowing deep dive. We've covered so much from the nature of reality to the future of consciousness and how technology shapes our world. Our listener definitely has a lot to think about.
I agree. It's been a fascinating journey.
So to wrap up, what's the one big thing you want our listener to remember from today?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. We're in a new era where the lines between digital and physical, the observer and the observed, are getting blurry. The idea that computers might be shaping reality just by interacting with data is a huge shift. It makes us question everything we thought we knew about the universe and our place in it.
And what about a final thought, something for our listeners to ponder?
If computers are really influencing reality on such a massive scale, what does that mean for the future of our universe? Will we create reality alongside our technology, shaping the cosmos with our combined computing power? Or will we be shaped by the very forces we've unleashed? It's a question worth thinking about as we step into this unknown territory.
Wow, that's definitely something to think about. We'll leave you to ponder the mysteries of the quantum universe and its amazing connection between computers, consciousness, and reality. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.